Now let's look at the settings for Foldatry. Frankly, this is all a bit of a backwater at the moment and things may change. There are some settings here for in Foldatry, some ideas by which you would choose which of the files would be the ones to delete. At the moment there are some settings there to match some of the ways in which some programs will create an extra file even though it's the same file as one you've already got. Typical thing here is web browsers. When you download a file, usually they will download the file even if you've already downloaded it, but they'll download the new one with a new name, or they'll change the name of the one you had already downloaded, and similar, some other copy programs do this. So this list here is to tell that part of the program, here's how you detect which are the ones that are the extra copies that could be removed. Some ideas for fingerprinting that frankly haven't been implemented. Then, and this section is meant to be functional, had been functional before, and will be functional again. It's actually probably one of the next things I'm working on is bring this back into full capability. But the idea here is that there are settings all the way through the Foldatry program. There was settings in Prunetry, there were settings in Foldatry, etc. What you would like to be able to do is save those settings out to a file and then be able to load them back in again. The idea of the interfacing here is you could say which of the settings that you've currently got sitting in the program are you going to save to a file. So you could say I'm going to save just the Prunetry settings and I'm going to save all of the current settings and put them in a file somewhere. So you could specify a file location here up in the box up in the top, and you could do this by you have to choose a file name as well. That's right. So we could specify a file and name to save and then click on save, and it would go and find those selected settings in the other parts of the program. At the moment I've gone and selected all those ones in Prunetry. It would go and find the settings down here in Prunetry and then save them to a file. Now the reverse happens with loading. You could, having saved that, which I haven't yet, but you could say, okay, I want to load those settings and I want to load the Prunetry settings, but I only want to load, I don't want it to change the folders I've set, I just want it to change the settings. So I could turn off disposal list and survival list. So even if those were in the saved file, when I load back in, I will actually only use the ones I'm saying here to change the settings currently in Prunetry. That's the general idea. The idea is it will work across all of the features available in the whole of Foldatry. As I say, this is actually not functioning at the moment because a lot of changes have been made to Foldatry recently, and this list of things to save and load have not been brought up to date, which actually means they mismatch. The program will probably crash if you go to do this at the moment, but that will be brought back into being exactly the same. The main purpose for this is not really to do that so much here in the interface. It's obviously useful to be able to test it. The main idea is to be able to create settings files that you've saved, and then in the command line running of Foldatry, say, here, run Foldatry, load the settings from this file that I made of settings, and then do the appropriate action that I will then tell you to do. So it's there for using Foldatry as an automated process from executing automations. Finally, we have log settings. So when Foldatry runs, it can generate a lot of logs. We've seen that it generates to the status window and to the results window and to the process logs. That just does those as it's going along. Some of those also go out to log files or not, depending on whether you've got the setting on or not. And in fact, you'll see that therefore we've got 3 of these that correlate exactly to those windows. We've got log to status. So logging will occur to status window regardless, but log to status means log a file to status. Log results goes to a file. log process could go to a file. And there's two deeper ones as well that don't go to the screen ever, but can go to a log file. There's a details log, and there's a log for debugging. Which actions in the program go to which of these logs is controlled by me as the programmer inside the program code, but whether it happens or not, you can control as the user. There's actually two ways of running Foldatry. You can run it in debug mode, in which case the default when it executes in debug mode is to turn all of these on. That's how I'm running it at the moment, which is why these were already all on. But you can also run it in not debug mode, in which case it will not generate any log files. In which case when you run it in that mode, these will all be turned off by default. That's obviously kind of there for longer term running, but also you don't want it cluttering up your home folder with these log files, because that's where they go, and it generates a new one for every single run, so it can become a bit of a mess. At the moment, while the program's being developed, naturally I have these turned on all of the time, but that has been separated into being able to run in a different mode.